My guest on this episode shares how courage, community, and disruption have defined her life's work. From standing on the front lines of the movement for justice for Breonna Taylor alongside her teenage daughter, to breaking barriers as the first Black woman elected to Kentucky's state legislature in nearly 2 decades. She reflects on what it means to act despite fear and to lead with integrity, purpose, and joy. With honesty and vulnerability, she shares how saying no can be a powerful act of courage and how envisioning joy can be a radical practice in the face of adversity. You're listening to the Courageous Public Health Podcast, Episode 14. To all the courageous Black, Indigenous, and women of color leading in public health, this podcast is your space to turn up the volume on your courage. This space centers your voice. This space celebrates your passion. This space amplifies your courage. My role? To listen, to amplify, and to stand with you in the fight for equity. My name is Dr. Christy McClamrock. I'm an epidemiologist, consultant, the founder and CEO of Courageous Public Health, and the host of the Courageous Public Health Podcast. Each week, I have unfiltered conversations with BIPOC women in public health about the challenges you face, the power you hold, and your vision for the future. We talk about the authenticity, vulnerability, and courage that you bring, not just to public health, but to every part of your lives. Because courage is about action, even in fear. It's about taking up space, leading unapologetically, refusing to be erased, and knowing you never have to do it alone. If you're ready to turn up the volume on your courage, if you're ready to take up space, if you're ready to smash the racist, patriarchal, cisnormative, heteronormative, ableist, capitalistic systems, then let's dive into this brand new episode. Thank you for joining me on this episode. I'd like to start by introducing myself if you're brand new to the podcast, or reintroducing myself if you're a returning listener. My name is Dr. Christy McClamrock, and I am the CEO of the Courageous Public Health Consulting Firm, where we support public health organizations through workshop design and facilitation and speaking engagements. I am so excited to introduce you to my guest on this episode. Let me formally introduce her, and then we'll jump right into our conversation. The Honorable Attica Scott is a mom of 2, a former Kentucky state representative, a policy strategist, and a community educator. Known for her grassroots approach to politics, she helps everyday people understand how government works and why it matters. Her work empowers women and marginalized communities across the South to take a stand, participate in democracy, and challenge prevailing political myths. She's especially passionate about reproductive justice, equity, and public education. Let's connect my conversation with the Honorable Attica Scott right now. Attica Scott, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited that you are here. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Christy?
I'm good. I've been excited about interviewing you since Dr. Gabriella Alcalde recommended you for the podcast after she did her.
Yes.
She is wonderful. Big shout out to her. We're both really big fans, Gabriella.
Yes.
And I think this is going to be good. This is going to be good.
Yeah, it is.
So why don't we start by having you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So I am Attica Scott. I'm a proud mama of 2 amazing young people. I live in Louisville, Kentucky. I'm a Southerner, love the South, and will often speak up and use my voice to celebrate our Southern states and Kentucky and Appalachia and our rural communities. I love action and adventure and sci-fi and fantasy. I've written blog posts about community organizing lessons from movies and books like Harry Potter, or Dr. Gabriella Alcalde and I wrote a Medium blog post together about Star Trek Discovery and basically what it says for our time. So So that's me.
I love that. That's so creative and amazing. Wow. Okay, I'm gonna have to absolutely check those out. Those I did not read before our interview, but I am definitely gonna go find those now that you've said that you did that.
Awesome.
Oh wow, that's great. That's great. Well, I think we should just jump right in.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah. So bravery, and I say this at the beginning of all the episodes. So bravery is about taking action without fear, while courage is taking action despite fear. And I am really interested in people's stories of courage. So I would love to hear from you about some experiences from your professional life as well as from your personal life when you acted courageously.
Yes, and I really appreciate that definition, that distinction really between the two words, because that's important.
Yeah.
Courage and being courageous. So I have two examples. One is personal, but it also borders on the political, and then the other is the political. So, and when I say that, I'm a former elected official, so I'm speaking from that experience. The personal, in 2020, we had the movement for justice for Breonna Taylor here in Louisville, Kentucky, and we occupy what we now refer to as Injustice Square Park for nearly a year. It was so long. And so my teenage daughter and I were down there almost every day. And what was created was this place where mutual aid was abundant, where there was care in abundance, where when I think about public health was being realized in this space because we were making sure that folks were wearing masks. We were making sure that folks had plenty of water. Every day we're like, listen, if you can bring some bags of water, you can bring some big old containers of water, bring some water. If you can bring snacks, bring snacks. We want to make sure in the middle of summer that folks were taken care of, right? That they were staying hydrated. We also knew we were in the midst of a global pandemic. So we were doing what we could to try to make sure we took care of one another. We had hand sanitizer, masks. We were trying to do our part, gloves, all of that. And so I say it was courageous because we were working to hold police accountable. We didn't have what police have at their disposal. We had us. We the people. And so it was pretty courageous to be out there standing up for justice, knowing that we were going against big systems and institutions, and we did it anyway. So that's one example, Christy, of that was more personal, even though it blended with the political, right?
Definitely. And I just, before you go on to your next example, sure. I just want to pause and say that is really powerful. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners remember, that summer. And I mean, there was a lot to protest against, and there was a lot to organize communities. That's so important. And so I was doing some painting. I go through spurts, right?
Okay.
Paint. But yeah, the day after Breonna Taylor was killed, I did a painting of her, and it's actually in my bedroom. And so hers is a face that I see every day. And so I just, that's like a personal connection to your particular example of courage.
No, I appreciate that. And when I think about the work that I was doing at the time, it was public health work, Christy. I was working for County Health Rankings and Roadmaps, and we are a program of the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, and working with communities across the country that wanted to build a culture of health. Like, I was doing that work in the midst of, what is a public health crisis. We were talking about police violence, police brutality, like that. It's all connected. And I felt it in that moment, Christy. I felt like this is all connected. We're supposed to be here in this moment.
Absolutely. And I think you're a great example of someone who does not define themselves necessarily as a public health professional.
Yes.
But you are doing the work of public health. That was the work of public health. And I think it's so, so important for us to take this broader view, because there are a lot of us out there. There are a lot of people out there doing the work of public health. So thank you for thank you for
Of
that.
course, of course. And then the last example I have is more
Yes.
political. So when I was elected to serve in our state legislature, I was the first Black woman elected in almost 2 decades. So I was going up there as the only Black woman. And so I knew that meant to a certain extent I would be by myself. I would be alone. And I also knew that my community elected me to serve and to represent them. So I had to go. I'm going. But I knew that it would take courage to show up in a space where maybe I wasn't going to be welcome, right? That maybe some things would be done or said that were out of line, inappropriate, offensive. And I also knew that when I came back home, I would be surrounded by people who loved and supported me. And so that was important too, right? That I believe for me, I will speak for myself and say that when I have found myself to be the most courageous is when I knew I had other people who supported me, that it wasn't some lonely act of courage that I was doing by myself, but maybe I was doing it for, on behalf of, or with other people.
Oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. And, I hadn't thought of it that way before, but that's so true, that the support that we have, the people behind us, absolutely embolden us to be courageous.
Yes.
Courage doesn't come out of a vacuum.
That's right. Exactly. And I think about the people we impact, right? The young people who have seen those acts of courage, the women who never thought they'd be able to run and serve in elected office. And they're like, wait a minute now, she's showing up by herself. First of all, I'm going to have her back. Secondly, I want to be up there so that we can work together.
Yes. Oh, so powerful. Those are good examples. Thank you for sharing both of them. And so the next question is actually about claiming and expressing your power in spaces that may not always welcome it. So you spoke to that a little bit, and I just wonder if you have some ideas about how you express and embody your power as someone who's doing that work, public health. If you have any more thoughts about that.
Yes. So I believe no is a full and complete sentence. So I will say no to some things without hesitation. I also know, K-N-O-W, that my experience is important to share with people. That if I don't share my experience, they won't know. Some people may not know what it was like to grow up in the projects, right? My mother, died when I was 16. She died from an overdose. She struggled with addiction to alcohol and drugs. Christy, I didn't share that story for decades because I was afraid of being judged. I had that fear. And then I realized I have a story that some young women who are currently growing up the way that I grew up needed to hear. So I had to step out of myself and say, the courageous thing to do here is forget about Attica. Think about these young women. Think about these girls who need and deserve to hear a story of someone who was where they are so that they could see a way out. So for me, that's where I realized that even though my story may be very different from many of the people that I was serving with, I needed to share it anyway. I needed to use my power, use my voice for others so that they could see themselves in that and have something that they might want to strive toward that they thought was never attainable for them.
That is the power of vulnerability. I think that's the power of vulnerability.
Yes.
I wrote this down. I have to refer to my notes here, that in 2021, you were today's women's most admired woman in politics.
Yes.
That's really powerful. That's powerful.
Yeah.
That is powerful.
That one, when I tell you that, that was breathtaking. It was mind blowing because it was the readers of Today's Woman magazine who were voting for these superlatives. And that meant that I touched women all across the readership to have been voted the most admired. And wonderful women were in the category, absolutely, and all very deserving. So to have had them vote for me, it just was so, it was touching, it was moving. And I am grateful that I've done the work to earn that title.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I also want to just throw in here that you have on your LinkedIn profile the phrase, you're a divine disruptor.
Yes.
And that really struck me. And so I shared with you before, but I'll share with our listeners that I am wearing my disruptor necklace today, just in honor of you as a divine disruptor. And I can absolutely, I hear that disruption. Being the first person, what did you say? 2 decades, the first Black woman in 2 decades. That's disruption.
Yes.
That is disruption.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious to know, I hadn't thought about this until now, but when you saw that phrase, divine disruptor, what did you think it meant?
Great question. I think I interpret it as like it's not just disruption, but it's something that comes from a deep place inside of you. It's maybe related to God, maybe related to thinking of like higher power kind of stuff, but that it's this core part of you. So I kind of read the divine as being a measure of the intensity of which you are driven to be a disruptor. But now, of course, I'm really fascinated to hear that's what I was thinking. But what were you thinking?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's all of that. It's the divinity. I'm a woman of faith. Spiritual, maybe not so much religious, definitely spiritual.
Yeah.
And I believe that I'm called, that I'm being guided to do something more than what I thought was possible, whatever that looks like. And for me, disruption shows up in lots of different ways. Like you said, being the first in 2 decades and the only one, that's a form of disruption. Disruption isn't always and only violent. Disruption is showing up in spaces and places where you aren't expected to be. Disruption is using your power and your voice when it's needed the most. Disruption is saying, I'm going to raise my kids differently. I want my kids to know that seeking justice is a part of who we are at our core. Like, there are different ways to show disruption. And so that's what divine disruptor meant for me.
When you said that about your kids, I just got like chills going all the way up my arms and up my face. Yeah. And also disruption is saying no as a complete sentence.
Yes.
That's disruption. And it's one word, you know? Yes. I love, because I also try to think about, the way that disruption can show up in subtle ways and what people might say are small ways, as well as in these like big ways, right?
Yes.
And it's sort of like the way that I think about wins. I spend a lot of time thinking about like, what are my wins, right? What are my wins? And asking other people like, well, what are your wins? And a win can be something really small. And I hate to even use the word small, but it's like, sometimes getting up and getting ready for your day, that's a win.
Yes.
It's not a small win. It can be a huge win.
That's
so
right.
I think of disruption, I guess, and wins similarly in that way.
I'm so glad you shared that, because when I think about women and the point of no being a complete sentence, so many of us have been taught over the years that you have to have a qualifier to go with it. Or you got to explain your no versus no. Are you available? No, I'm not available. Right.
Right. Hold on one second a minute.
Yeah, sure. Oh, my allergies are kicking my butt this season.
Yeah, mine too. I'm going to take a sip of water here.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Yeah, I try to find as many opportunities as I can to practice my no. I'm really big into practicing my no because I feel how difficult that is, right? And I know that it's, part of me is like, how is this still difficult for me when I'm 52 years old? Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, no, this is going to continue to be a challenge through your whole life because it's so ingrained.
Yes.
And I know, mean, that's my experience as a white woman. And I know that it's even harder, can be even harder for women of color. It's just not been it's not what we've been taught.
Exactly.
And
yes.
Yeah. So anyone who wants to say no to me, boy, I'll be like, thank you for your no.
That's right. Yes. Yes.
I appreciate the no. All right. So let's look at the last question here. This is about vision. This is about vision for the future. I'm really interested to hear about your vision in a couple different arenas. So your vision for public health, and I would say the vision for the political work that you're doing as well. Your vision for BIPOC communities, and how you see BIPOC women shaping these futures. And then after we've talked about that, I also want to hear about your personal vision for the future.
Okay. So I will take them. First of all, I can't believe we're at the end of this conversation. I've enjoyed it so much.
It's so good. I told you it was going to be good.
Yes, absolutely. And then the second thing is I'm going to try to remember all three, but I may take one at a time and ask you to remind me.
No, that's fine. I'll totally prompt you again.
Okay. Awesome. So the first is my vision for public health.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, well, I want public health to stop being under attack. I want people to be able to do the work that they came into public health to do, which is to take care of community, right? It's the public, it's the we. So to take care of the we, and however that looks. In the public health work that I was doing, it was, how do we change health outcomes, right? The conditions under which people are living, because that has an impact on public health. And so, that's what we were working on. Hey, do we need to raise the wage? Do we need to look at graduation rates and find out what do students need to be able to graduate? That's what we were looking at. So I want public health to own that more. My vision for public health in the future is that you get it, that you see that all of these issues are connected: housing, transportation, food access, food justice, all of it is connected. So that's my future for public health, to stop being under attack and to see the bigger picture of how we're all connected.
I feel like you're talking about the social determinants of health.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Let's acknowledge all of these social determinants of health and get to work on them.
Yes, absolutely. And then what was the second question? Well,
and I don't know if you have any thoughts about, your vision for where you want to go, sort of politically. Is that something that you have any thoughts about?
Yeah, I appreciate that question so much, because I get asked almost every day by people across Kentucky, and even when I go to other states, are you running for office again? Or they'll say to me, please run for office again. We need you in office. My focus right now is trying to get other women, particularly women of color, in office at every level, local, state, and federal. Particularly, though, the state and local, because I feel like we overlook that so much across the country and then wait until every 4 years for a presidential election and wonder why people aren't engaged and involved. Well, it's because the past 3 years you forgot about us. So, my focus right now is on getting good, strong, courageous women in office.
That's looking at the next generation, right? You've paved the way, and now it's you get to be the leader and helping more people express their power. And that's great. I love that. It's also, it's not just about you, or, it's not just about the individual, right? It's really, it's like, what kind of impact can I have, and how can I actually grow that impact?
Yes.
In all the ways. So yes, that's beautiful. Right. So the next question was about your vision for BIPOC communities, and maybe specifically it's the vision for Black women in Kentucky, or however you want to sort of define it. Big community, small community, whatever level of community. Yeah.
So I'll go big and work my way in. So big, beautiful. I want to see, more of our communities working together. So, I'm in Kentucky, I'm in the South. What does it look like for Indigenous communities in the South, and how can we connect As a Black woman working with other Black women, how do we connect with our Indigenous communities, for example? That's the big picture. On a smaller picture, just right here at home in Kentucky, I want to see more Black women with opportunities to be public servants in elected office, because there's so much value we have to add to that public discourse and public decision making. I want to expand civic engagement and education with people of color, right? Black people, Indigenous people of color, because that's part of what keeps people outside, is that they don't feel like they're educated enough to get involved. So, Christy, I've made it my goal since I've been out of office to help educate people about what's happening in the political arena.
That's, fantastic. And then what about your personal vision for the future? Yeah. What is next for Attica?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that question. I've been thinking about that a lot. Like, what does joy look like in the midst of everything that we're experiencing? So that's what I want the future to look like. That's what I envision, a future where, and not to be falling into the trap of toxic positivity, but more along the visioning and dreaming of joy. And what does joyfulness look like in our communities, and how do we get there? Let's do everything in our power to get to that place of joy, because to your point about wins, every win along the way is important. Every victory along the way is important. So let's work toward that, and let's celebrate along the way.
So what does joy look like for you?
Ooh,
give me an example of like your joy. You get home from a long day work. What does joy look like for you?
Joy is a scoop of butter pecan ice cream. Oh my gosh.
Yes. That is fantastic. Butter pecan ice cream from Kentucky. Yes, please.
Yes. With the little bourbon.
Yes, of course. Of course.
Oh, goodness.
That's great. That is great. Wow. I have really enjoyed this conversation so much, and I want to thank you for taking the time to come on the podcast. I definitely want to let our listeners know the best way to connect with you, to learn more about you, and also more about your courage.
Yes, of course. So folks, please follow me on LinkedIn, and I'm on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and YouTube. You can look me up at Attica Scott KY. And thank you so much, Christy, for this opportunity. I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation.
Great. We'll put all of that in the show notes. And so, this is good. And if anyone wants to send you like some butter pecan bourbon ice cream,
that's right.
that will give you some joy.
I might have to do that now.
Or at least have a scoop in your honor.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that works. Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sometimes courage is standing on the front lines for justice. Sometimes courage is breaking barriers and creating space for others to rise. Sometimes it's saying no without apology, claiming your power, and envisioning joy in the face of adversity. The Honorable Attica Scott reminds us that disruption can be divine, and that every act of courage helps shape a more just world. You can connect with the Honorable Attica Scott on LinkedIn to learn more about her and her courage. All the links to connect with her are on our show notes page for this episode, located on our website, courageouspublichealth.com, under episode 14. Before you return to your day, think of someone in your life who would be moved by this conversation. Take a moment to share this episode with them. If you're listening on a podcast app, you can send it via text or share directly to social media. And if you're on our website, the sharing buttons make it easy to spread the word. Thanks so much for being here. Until our next episode, stay courageous. Thank you for listening to the Courageous Public Health Podcast. Visit courageouspublichealth.com to find the show notes for each episode and learn how to connect with us.